Howdy, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Meet and Greet, where we have the conversation you want to have with that person you just spent hours in line wanting to meet. My guest today is a magician who currently has a residency in Lake Tahoe. He's about to go on a national tour, and he's been on Penn and Teller's Fool Us twice, and he's fooled them once. Well, technically, the dog fooled Penn and Teller, but those are details. My guest today is Alex Ramon. So go ahead and like, follow, subscribe, share this video, and thanks for tuning in on another episode of the Meet and Greet. For you.
Well, you know what? I mean, that's how we met, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
met because you came to my show and you didn't just see the show, you waited in line and we connected and we chatted and then you came back and then saw you again and chatted with you again and you build this little rapport with people. And so as an entertainer who's doing constant meet and greets, it's an opportunity to meet the people who are your customers, right? They're my best customers. I think sometimes that entertainers just maybe look at it through the lens of, oh, they're famous and people trying to meet them. But the people buying tickets to my performance are my customers, and my best
Mhm.
customers are what? Repeat customers. And so I always want to service them. I always want to give them something. And so in all my meet and greets go long, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, my meet and greets go long, and it's because I spend time with the people. I
Yeah.
spend a time. I don't just go, great, thank you, photo, goodbye. It's not 20 seconds. The interactions can sometimes be 3, 4 minutes. And now when you have 100 people, that's a long time.
Yeah. You're
But
different. You're different than a Comic Con because Comic Cons they wait in line for hours, and they
yeah,
literally is like 20 seconds. Say hi, get your photo taken, and
yeah. I mean,
you have to go.
obviously the scale of those are greater than what I'm doing on a nightly basis. However, you know, I am doing meet and greets all the time. And when I do the larger tours, there are times where, you know, the promoter says, we can't do a meet and greet. It's like, why?
Mm,
Because there's like thousands of people out there and it just, you can't do it. But in my nightly shows here in Lake Tahoe, I will always do meet and greets. And I think they are important. In fact, I was just talking to somebody and explaining why they're so important to me. And it's because these people they'll text me, right? They'll message me, they'll contact me, and sometimes I've seen them for years.
mhm.
And especially when I do my shows at home, you know, those meet and greets go really long because there are people who see me every year and I'm every Christmas, every December, I do a December show. And the people that come, they've maybe been 12 years. It's like a family tradition to see my show in December, you know, every year. And so that's important. And who am I to like, they just bought tickets to my show every year. These people are constantly supporting me. I can give them 3 minutes.
Mhm.
I could give them 3, 4 minutes. And although it makes my meet and greet extend longer, every person that then has those 3 minutes with me understands why the meet and greet is so long.
Your show's particularly interesting because when you advertise, you don't really advertise. You let Harrah's, or where is it, Harrah's you're performing at now in
Yeah.
Tahoe? You let Tahoe put up the billboards, but everything else, like Lesher, is word of mouth.
Yeah. It's like we sold, you know, what, 1,000 tickets this last December, and I sent 1 email and 1 text.
Mhm.
And it's
Wow.
because a lot of those people are they're super fans and they want to go every year and support. In fact, I'm doing another show this spring. I haven't even I haven't even promoted it. I've only taught personally my voice
Yeah,
have told people, and we already sold 250 tickets, and I haven't sent 1 email yet. I haven't
that's
sent 1
crazy.
email. You don't even know about it. You don't no one knows about it because the
I
only
don't
way
know about it.
yeah, the only way to know about it is to talking to me, and I talk about it at my show. But the point is this, is that the meet and greets are where you turn um, people maybe seeing you for the first time that are interested into fans. The time you spend that with them will turn them into super fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Pat Flynn wrote a book called, Superfans. I believe it's called Superfans. And he has a YouTube channel all about Pokemon and everything. And it's changed his life. And it's because people who you want to um, support, give back to. And I think that's a two-way street from entertainer to fan.
Sure.
And without the fans buying tickets, without the fans tuning in, without the fans listening, without the fans, you wouldn't have a job, you wouldn't have a platform. And so I think there's respect due there. And so I always try and, you know, not always can you honor every request that you get from fans, but the meet and greets is an opportunity to um, talk to people and let them get some excitement and some, wow, I really appreciate that I was given the respect and the time because you're
Mm.
respecting the art or the performance or the entertainment that you received. I think it's a nice thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think you and I'm going to get to when you and I first met later. But what I wanted to do, I want to have some fun with you with this particular episode because I've
Okay.
seen you do podcasts throughout a couple times. I've seen interviews you've done, and they always start at the beginning and they move all the way over to, oh, what are you doing now towards the very end. I want to flip that. Let's do Memento. Let's
Dude,
start, yeah, let's
love
start
that.
from what you're doing next to the beginning. So answer me this, Alex. What is 50 and 50 and 50?
Oh man. My next tour is my 50 tour, even though I'm not 50 years old. I'm doing my 50 tour now because I'm young enough to do it. So what
Yeah.
is 50, 50, 50? 50, I'm doing my next tours, 50 shows, 50 states, 50 days,
Wow.
hitting every state, including, of course, Alaska and Hawaii. And this tour begins March 1st, 2025 until April 19th, 2025. And we start in Nevada here in Lake Tahoe at the casino. Then we move Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico. We kind of go counterclockwise around the continental US. Then we hit Alaska towards the end of the tour. And then day 49 will be in California in the Bay Area at the Lesher. So that will be day 49 on April 18th, which happens to be my birthday. And then the
Okay.
next morning, we fly to Hawaii and do the last show, day 50 in Hawaii. And then I'll stay there for a few days after that. So I had this idea to do this tour 50, 50, 50 a couple years ago. And I'm one of those people when I have an idea that sounds crazy that people go, oh, no way. I'm like, dang, I have to do it now. I thought about it. I thought of it. It came to my, if I never thought of it, then I wouldn't do it. But because I thought of it, I have to do it.
When you say
And
oh no way, do you mean like in terms of you can't do that or that's impossible?
both.
Both. Okay.
It's both. I mean, I kind of thrive on it. I mean, I kind of love, I I secretly love when people go, there's no way you're going to do that. Not that they don't believe that I have the ability to. It's more like, no way, you're crazy. You're going to do that. I kind of love that. And so what are we doing? This tour is going to be a little bit different than my other tours because we are going to be driving the majority of it. So we're going to have a
Is
Sprinter van.
is MJ going with you?
MJ's going. My
All
puppy
right.
MJ's coming. He's in my lap right now. MJ's coming, and Thomas, my videographer, will be traveling with me. Sophia will pop in and out during the tours, but we're going to get essentially a Sprinter van that's has the bed and the shower and the bathroom and the kitchen and all the things, and we're just going to drive across this country and doing shows. Some of the shows are in theaters. Some of the shows are in community centers. Some are in people's homes.
Yeah.
And I started doing these, I call them house tours. And I started doing these house tours years ago. And how it began is most of my career, I perform as a magician on stage in theaters and casinos, cruise ships, things like this. And my hobby, though, is card tricks, close up magic. That's
Mhm.
my hobby. That's how I began. That's how I started, right? I love it. But my career path kind of went into the more stage production style of magic. So I was like, I want to do card tricks for people. But it's like card tricks, no one's really gonna pay you $50, $60 to see a theater show and then just see card tricks,
You can't
and
sell out an arena
yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah. And then not
yeah.
going to say in the video. I mean, now it's a little bit more common than it used to be. But I, years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I was like, well, I'm just going to tell people like, hey, I'm going to come over to your house. You can have 10 people there, clear the dining room table. I'll sit down and I'll do like 30-minute magic show with close-up magic.
Hmm.
And then it was like, well, how do I get people to like, you're not like, it's not a show. You're not booking me, but I also want to value my time. So I said, well, why don't you donate to this charity, $250, and then I'll come do it. So, long story short, I did that, but it was very sporadic and it was kind of hard to make it happen. So, one year I decided to like commit to the idea of doing these house shows. I call them pop-up shows at the time. I call them pop-up shows. I'll do a pop-up show at your house. And then it kind of grew. And then I realized, well, if I take a few weeks to do this, that's going to mean that I can't perform for a few weeks. I have to make money with it. How do I make money with it? But I can't charge people. So it was this debate of how to figure it out. And what it ended up being is, I'll do this house tour. I'll come over to your house. I'll do a show at your house, no cost. But if at the end of the show, you or your friends want to throw some money in a tip jar, or you want to buy some of my merch, you can.
Hmm.
And that's how we fund the tours. And I've been doing that for years now. And I've done national tours with it. And now it leads me to 50, 50, 50.
Did it start with 30 and 30 and then you went to 35 and
I went,
35?
yeah, well, there was the pop-up shows happened for a couple years prior to that. Then I did 35 and 35, then 37, 37, then my silver tour. And now we're doing my 50 tour.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I did a 30. I don't know if I did silver or whatever, but it's all through, it was through Zoom and
Well, yeah,
people from
one
across
of the
the,
ones was Zoom. Yeah, one of
yeah.
the tours I was going to do was scheduled March 1st, or no, April 1st, 2020. And
Uh-huh.
then 2 weeks prior, of course, everything shut down. And I'm like, okay,
Yep.
so I will now do it on Zoom.
And
And at
then,
the time, no one knew what Zoom was.
yeah, and the cool part was, I mean, just kind of allude to what you were talking about. Every single one of my friends who was joined the show I had with you,
Yeah,
I think I had like 20, 25 people on Zoom for that one.
yeah,
Each of them said, we donated. It was
yeah,
like a buck, but we donated. It was great
yeah,
because
yeah.
it was a nice break in routine. I gotta watch it
Absolutely,
because
absolutely. So
we'll get to that in a second.
yeah, so
Too.
that's what's going on next. So my next big thing is my 50 tour, 50 shows, 50 states, 50 days. And then after that, the next big thing would be FISM World Championships, which will be in July of
Woo!
this summer. And FISM, for those listening, is essentially the Olympics of magic. It's the world's largest magic contest. It's held every 3 years in a different city around the world. And there's different categories of magic. There's illusion, manipulation, card magic, mentalism, all these different categories. And magicians compete and then they award gold, silver, bronze medals in the different categories. And
Mm,
so this last year, 2024, was the North American Championships. It's the qualifiers for Worlds. It was held in Dallas, Texas. MJ and I went there. We competed. We ended up winning first place, North American FISM Championship champion.
congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, we were ranked the number one illusionist in North America, and we were invited, one of only three Americans invited to compete at World Championships in Italy next summer or this summer. So that's really exciting. So we do our 50 tour this spring, and then summer will be FISM World Championships, and we'll see how we do at the against the world's best magicians.
Woo! You got your plate full.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're working backwards. What award did you just win in Tahoe in terms of dancing?
I was invited to compete at Dancing with the Tahoe Stars,
Yep.
and it's a really great fundraiser for a nonprofit called the Tahoe Arts Project, and the Tahoe Arts Project brings arts to the schools in the basin. So they raise money and then they hire musicians, dance troupes, interesting singers just from all around the world to come into the Tahoe Basin. Lake Tahoe is actually a really small market. South Lake Tahoe has maybe 20,000 people, 25,000 people. So it's a very small town.
There's like 4 casinos out
Yeah,
there,
we have four major
and
casinos,
yeah,
and so the business we get here is all tourist related, right? They're
yeah.
not going to school in Tahoe, so Tahoe is a very small town, and so Tahoe Arts Project makes sure that there's some enrichment in the arts right here in the basin, and so that's what Tahoe Arts Project does. And so their biggest um, fundraiser of the year, they do Dancing with the Tahoe Stars, and they have 10 local stars, celebrities, to dance with a dance pro. And they asked me to be like the sheriff. It's like the sheriff, the fire chief, the principal of the high school. It was me.
Oh,
It
okay.
was a local TV host. And so, and so forth. We have a gold medalist. We had a gold medalist for snowboarding. That was one of the Tahoe Stars. So, I mean, we have some nice little local stars and celebrities here that dance.
So to
I didn't
clarify,
win though. I didn't win. Okay. I got a participation award, but it was so much fun. And actually, I need to upload that video of
well,
the.
to clarify, you weren't the contestant, you were the star, right? You were the Derek Hoof.
I no, well, no, I was the contestant.
You were the contestant.
I was the contestant. So the star is paired with a dance pro. So I was paired with a professional dancer that
You
then
weren't the dance pro.
no.
That's
I
weird
mean,
because you used to do a lot of dancing in your show.
I can move.
Oh,
Not the
okay.
dance pro. I was absolutely the star paired with a dance pro. And Taylor, her name is Taylor, was my dance partner. And she, all credit to her. We got paired. So what they did is this theme this year was dancing through the decades. And so they paired all of the couples with a decade. And we got the 1930s. Now, let me just tell you, I think the 1930s is the hardest decade because everything else is iconic. The 20s, flappers, 30s, what's going on in the 30s and
Ragtime?
40s? War.
Yeah. World War
Well,
II. Or
then yeah, then the 50s you have like sock hop and you have like, like the poodle skirts. 60s, is like all right, little hippie. 70s
mhm.
disco, 80s, you can place the decades easier, and the 30s and the 40s were the most difficult.
Mm.
I think. Anyways, we got the 1930s. Taylor choreographed the whole routine, and we rehearsed, and we did really, really well. MJ made a cameo, of course. But no, the winner deservedly won because they raised a lot of money.
You brought up MJ just a couple seconds ago, and MJ is the one that won Fool Us. Right?
Yeah, he won. They
He
gave the
won.
trophy to MJ.
I won't ask if you're going to go back, but just tell me that was your second time on Fool Us. What was the experience like? It's like, okay, I
Yeah,
didn't get him the
so
first time. How am I going to get him the second time?
yeah, the TV show, has a great premise and plot. Penn and Teller, these superstars in magic, famous, they have to guess how you do the trick. And so the
Mm-hmm.
first time I was on the TV show, I performed a routine that I created with an iPad, and I made this iPad disappear. And it's clever. It's a clever routine, and it does fool magicians. I mean, it really does. It fools people, not just magicians.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really good trick. But they figured it out. Pateller figured it out, and he was really nice. But they loved the routine, and that was great. And so then they asked me to go on again. When I say they, not Penn and Teller, the producers. Penn and Teller really don't know who's going to be on the TV show. They really keep it secret. They don't let them. They don't get any tips. They don't get any help. It's a really, really straight up show of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing it for the first time, and they have to guess. They get one guess. And the second time I had MJ, and I had this routine that I was working. Actually, this routine, my dog park illusion.
Yep.
This is the actual concept drawing. It's the structure. I build this structure with all the different, these objects, and then I put my dog on top of it. I remove support, objects that are supportive, and he's suspended in midair, basically. Then he
Right. It's
jumps
called
with my
it's a
arms and the whole
suspension
thing.
routine, right?
Huh?
Or Penn called it a suspension routine.
It's a suspension routine. It is.
Right.
And so he's suspended in midair and then he jumps and the whole structure collapses. And it's a really great moment. And so I originally, here's the dish. Originally,
No.
um, I wanted to do this routine for like NBA halftime shows. That was the goal. It can be done surrounded. It's about, 4 or 5 minutes. It gives you 5 minutes. It has the dog. It's kind of cute and interesting. So, like, I thought it'd be great for halftime shows. And then I was like, well, how do I pitch it on a halftime show? I was like, well, if I do it on Fool Us, it doesn't matter if I win or not. I'm going to have a good video of me doing this on TV, which would be a pitch to the NBA halftime show. It's going to look good on TV.
Uh-huh.
And so that was the idea. But here's the catch. The catch was I couldn't do the routine yet. So I was still working on it. It was something that I was trying to do. So when you submit videos to be on Fool Us, you have to submit uncut, one camera shot of the trick because they want to make sure that you're not cutting, you're not
Sure.
cheating. Well,
Sure.
guess what? I did. So I couldn't do it. So halfway through the audition video, I like got to a certain point in the routine and I froze for a second. Then I changed something. I had to fix something. Then I went back into the position and then I continued on with the trick. And so I was like, and I did a cut. I did like a jump cut right there. Bang.
Take the trophy away.
And I said, yeah, right. And I go, oh man, if someone's watching this, they're going to notice that cut. But if they're kind of just like, all right, let me just scrub through it, they'll never notice it. So I was like, okay. So I couldn't do it yet. I mean, I was getting there, but I wasn't good. I was still practicing. It was in rehearsals.
Sure.
So I submitted the video and usually it takes a couple weeks for them to respond saying, oh, we reviewed the video. Yeah, we want you on the show or maybe not next season or something. Within 20 minutes from me submitting the video with the link, I just emailed the producer and I was past the time of submissions. They're like, deadline is, February 1st. And I sent it like in April. Like
Oh
I was
no.
like way bad. And I just said, hey, I know we're past, and my email was like, hey, I know we're past deadline, but here's something new I've been working on. Boom. 20 minutes later, we want it on the TV show. Yes, this day we could film. And I'm like, oh no. And I was like, I have like a month to be able to do this trick
Uh-huh.
because I can't do it yet. So we worked really, really hard, and we worked really hard. And when I say we, it's a team effort, and of course training and working with MJ. So then we ended up, long story short, we ended up doing it on the TV show. We ended up fooling Penn and Teller. They did not know how we did it, and it's been a great routine. And actually, the same illusion is what we're competing at FISM with.
Oh,
So
good. I love watching Fool Us when it's on,
yeah.
and more so, I love because the whole premise is not debunking the magician, but saying we know how to do it. And Penn is so good at telling the magician how it's done without telling the audience how it's done.
Penn and Teller, Penn
Yeah.
and Teller really the best TV show to ever be on magic wise is Fool Us. And
Yeah.
it's because Penn and Teller have really, really taken it upon themselves. And it was a not a request, but a demand of saying, these magicians who are coming on the show are fantastic performers and entertainers, and we need to respect them. This is an art. They put a
Hmm.
lot of work into this material, and we need to respect it. So many other TV shows, um, and bigger and more famous TV shows, they kind of take acts and they spit them out. And they're
Hmm.
just using them for time. And they just want a quick clip and they want 90 seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 1 second of a
The
clip of
viral
someone doing
video.
something, a
Yeah.
viral thing, or they make you look bad. And Penn and Teller have never, ever, ever done that to any of the acts, which is why so many magicians want to be on the show. And Penn and Teller have used their fame and their leverage to help other people, acts like me, to get a showcase
Yeah.
for the actual value of the trick and the act. And I mean, it's a respect thing. And so I really, really think it's a fantastic show. And um, uh, because of that, it's been on so long and so many magicians want to be a part of it. And the material on the show is so good. And it's also because of Penn and Teller being so kind and gracious with their guests, and they really look at them like that. They really want people to have a great time. And they were very, part of winning the show, you get to perform in their show in Las Vegas.
Oh
And
yeah.
when I went and did that recently, I mean, Penn and Teller have become friends of mine now. I've worked with them several times on different TV shows, on a major project called the Penn and Teller Foolers Tour. So I was selected by them to tour representing them and their brand, which was pretty cool. And so, yeah, it was a really, really cool experience. And it's just a hats off to those guys that for making all of the magicians and magic look good.
Yeah, the other cool thing about I remember what got me into magic was in the 90s when I was a kid, there were like every Halloween for about 4 years, there was a show called World's Greatest Magic. And that's
Love
where
it.
yeah,
Yep.
that's where I started watching people like the amazing Jonathan, Lance Burton, and not so
Legends.
much Copperfield, but not so much. But uh I don't, maybe Penn and Teller was on another one where they caught the bullet. Um,
Yep.
and I think Fool Us is another way of getting those names out there because I never heard of Shawn Farquhar until Penn
Cool
and
us.
Teller,
Yeah.
right? And I'm the reason why I'm bringing him up, where he's coming to mind, is because he was live on TikTok a couple nights ago, and I name dropped you, and he not so much talked about you, he talked about Sophia. So
Ah, did he really?
yeah, yeah. So you gotta. I'm gonna warn you right now. You gotta watch who you're touring with because right now I think MJ and Sophia are upstaging you, mainly
I'm
MJ.
gonna, hey man, after this, I'm gonna text Shawn right away and be like, hey man, what are you doing? Shawn is a fantastic magician, really one of the world's best magicians. He's so smart, he's such a good entertainer. And he's out of Vancouver, just north of Vancouver.
Hmm.
And Shawn, I've known him for years and we've done shows together, and he's just you will not find a single person that will say something bad about Shawn Farquhar. You can't. It's impossible. And he's such
Penn
a
might because he
loving and
fooled him
kind
a
guy.
couple times.
And he's fooled Penn and Teller. He's fooled Penn and Teller. And in fact, one of the routines that he fooled Penn and Teller with, he released as a trick. And then I did it. And I said to Shawn, I said, "Hey, Shawn, I
Sherlock Holmes book, right?
I want to change this. I want to change this. I would like to do this in the routine." And Shawn goes, "All right, listen, I'm only releasing like 10 of these." And to guys who have asked, he goes, "And you're like the guy to ask." And so I got like a special edition of this trick that he came up with, and it fooled Penn and Teller, and it was a fantastic trick. And yeah, it's just great. Shawn's a great guy.
It's
That makes me laugh so hard.
you ask Sean for the trick, and Fool Us is when Penn and Teller get fooled, they're not so much being fooled by the trick itself. They're being fooled by a method being used for the trick, right? For
Well, I
you,
mean,
for you, it was the wobble or
yeah,
whatever,
right. So
whatever Penn meant by that. I'm not going to ask you to explain it, you know.
well,
Um,
the thing is that you have a premise for a trick, right?
uh-huh.
And then you have different methods to accomplish this premise. And so, for example, you're going to saw a girl in half.
Right. Everyone's seen.
Yeah, that's a premise that is one of the most famous plots in
Uh-huh.
magic. Now, how? Well, I do two different versions that are very unique. And it does fool people. Now, it doesn't mean that they would fool Penn and Teller, but it does fool people, of course, and it also fools other magicians who don't know those particular methods. But that's why it's so hard to fool Penn and Tellers, because their
Right.
knowledge of methods is great and it's vast. And so they can come, put everything together and go, oh, I think it's this or that. You're not required to tell and Penn and Teller how you do the trick. So, for example, after I did Dog Park, I'm not forced to tell them. In fact, when I saw Teller at their show, they're watching backstage. It's so funny because I'm performing, and in the wings watching me is Penn and Teller going, and then the whole thing happens. And then I look at him, I wink at him in the wing, and I'm like, it's a pretty good trick, huh? And they go, Teller's like, it's fantastic. It's so good. I don't know. And
So
it's really great. So, but yeah, so I mean, there's a respect that is given to the methods and the creators of these new methods. And
right. The
and
question was, is there a such thing as new magic tricks, or is it just kind of a rehash of with different methods that makes it new?
well, wow, that's such a good question. And
That's
it's
what I'm
I'm
all
gonna
about,
answer,
man. Asking
yeah, no,
questions you've never been asked before.
no, that's a really, really good question. And it's smart. And the thing is, I would say both. If you
Yeah.
come up with a new and interesting plot, fantastic. The method sometimes is secondary to the plot because you want the plot to be interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the method is such a clever, you come up with a way to do something that you go, wow, this is so neat. This is going to be really fool somebody. This is going to be a really good trick. Let's just do the trick. And the method becomes the plot. So, for example, there's a trick called any card at any number, right? And basically, you name a card, you name a number, and the card is at that number in a deck of cards. And so you kind of go, wait, how did that happen? It's kind of this really impossible, but it's also improbable because it is possible for that to happen, but it's improbable, not likely.
Mm-hmm.
There's different methods of doing that. So the plot itself, the method itself is fascinating and interesting. So to answer the question is like, yeah, you always want to come up with new plots. And sometimes with a new plot, a new method is developed. It's created. It's discovered. That might even be a better way of describing it. It's
Mm-hmm.
discovered. A new method is discovered. Um, and that just happened yesterday to me as I was on a phone call with a magician friend of mine, and we're talking about new material that I'm going to do on my 50 tour. And I told him what I wanted to do, and I said, "Well, this needs to happen." And he goes, "Oh," I said, "So this existing method, this trick that we do it this way, well, we're going to change this. Will it still work?" And he's like, "I think so." I was like, "Well, let's try it." He's like, "All right, let me try and do a prototype." So it's really engineering. It's really problem solving and creativity.
Right.
Magic hits a lot of different things because of the psychology of it, the public speaking, the problem solving,
Oh yeah.
the sociological experiments that you're interacting with people. So audience management. And so there's a lot of things, and then fine motor skills if you're doing sleight of hand techniques, you know? So, I mean, there's a
There, I
lot going on to it.
Yeah, I think a good example too, just so people can have a basis of what we're actually talking about here is I hope it's uploaded on your YouTube channel. The first time you were on Fool Us,
Yes.
you did a trick called that Penn very says you can buy it at any dime a dozen. It's called the die box, right?
Right.
The trick that you've done is not new, but there was a method that Penn didn't quite pick up on, but Teller did. And
Right.
unfortunately, you lost, but you also were introducing a new method of doing the die
Well,
box.
correct. Absolutely. So the thing is that, um,
Go to Alex's YouTube channel and find it. You'll see what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
you can put the link in the show notes if you want on YouTube.
Mhm.
Yes, the trick, the plot, rather, the plot was a old plot, the sliding die box. And
Mhm.
you would have this little wooden box, has two doors like this, and you put a die, like a big die inside. And you close it, and then you go, watch, I'm going to make it disappear. And you slide it over to one side, and you open this door, and you go, look, it's gone. And then you go, boom, and then you slide it over here, and go, look, it's gone. And then you slide it over here, look, it's gone. And then you open both doors, and the die had disappeared.
Right.
And this is a trick that is a classic of classics. And people have this trick. And as Penn said, you could buy it, you could do it, you can fool people with it, and it's a great trick. My version has the same plot. The premise was different, though, right? The same plot of sliding something back and forth and making it vanish. The premise was not a die inside a box. The premise was an iPad lie detector that then whenever I told the truth, it would ding. Whenever I said a lie, it would buzz. So now it's introducing a character to the object
Yeah.
because this thing's catching me. So I'm trying to talk and fool you, but it keeps catching me lying to the audience. And so it had a great premise. It was very, very fun. And then at the end, of course, I'm sliding it back and forth and I'm saying, look, it disappeared. And then it's like, it's like, you can't see it. Ding, ding. It's like, oh, yeah. Then, well, look, you know that it's really gone. You can't see it. Ding, ding, ding. Right. And so as it's sliding back and forth, you have those funny moments. And then, of course, I open up both doors and I show it vanished. But the method that I used was created an original to that prop,
Hmm.
to that routine. And so people who know the sliding die box would go, wait, 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 where did that go? How did that happen? And and to be perfectly honest, 2 days ago, I had a friend in the UK who wanted to do a show, and they asked for permission. They said, like, can I do your iPad routine, the lie detector routine? Can I do that? And I've not released it. Unlike, so like Shawn released a trick. So magicians can create a trick and release it to the magic community, and
Yeah.
magicians buy the trick and then perform it. I've released tricks to magicians. I have not released the iPad routine. I've never released it. I've gotten requests for years and years and years for people all over. I've had people knock it off and like rip it off in overseas. And it just kind of, but I've never released it. And so my friend in the UK said, I would love to do it. Can I do it? And I mean, it's the first time that I've ever said, okay, I'll let you do it, and I'm going to release it. So he's going to do it in the UK, I think this spring or summer.
Hmm.
And so that's the first time I've ever let anybody actually perform it.
Yeah.
And so it's a really great routine, a really great premise, but that's the first one that I began with. Um, but that's an example of a plot, a classic plot, given a new premise, right? But
Huh.
then having to, because of the premise and the object, having to create a new method to accomplish the same effect as the original plot.
What are your thoughts on like people coming up and asking you, how does it work? Show me this trick work. And then going back to television shows,
Yeah,
uh, World's Greatest Magic Revealed, where they had the masked magician and they'd show
yeah, yeah.
you how those things are. Is that do you think
The
that's a
funny,
hindrance towards magic, or do you think
no,
that
not
actually
at all.
encourages?
Not at all. Here's why I can think and easily explain that. The Masked Magician was popular in the 90s. It had a resurgence in the 2000s for a bit, but then, whatever. Now it's just the same thing happens on TikTok and Instagram all the time and
Hmm.
YouTube. And it's just guys revealing tricks and they're getting views because it's clever and then it's funny because their attitude towards it is like, here's the trick, it's amazing, and then look how stupid this trick is. And that's the attitude of everybody on these channels. And some of the channels have a lot of subscribers and they probably, monetize it and
To
whatever.
be fair to these TikTokers too, Penn kind of had. I know we're talking about Penn and Teller a lot, but Penn kind of has the same attitude. I remember him on a talk show. He was doing a trick with Rebel Wilson, and he goes, "You're not stupid. The trick itself is stupid." And
Yeah.
he does like this rope routine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Clearly
yeah.
the audience can see what's happening, but Rebel
Right.
has no idea what's going on.
Right, 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 right.
So the
Right.
attitude, just to clarify, your attitude was isn't this trick is so stupid, so I'm going to show you how it's done. It's
Well, I would say that a lot of the TikTokers that are revealing tricks have the attitude of this is stupid. And yeah, the trick is stupid. This is a dumb thing. And kind of doing the opposite of what I said that Penn and Teller are doing, which is hey, let's respect these art forms and these tricks. And the only reason why those people are clever is because they didn't come up with the trick. They bought the trick and then they're going, "Oh yeah, this is dumb now." It's like, yeah, but the people exposing all the magic aren't clever enough to come up with their own trick. They're just not smart enough to do it. So they whatever. So the point is this: the people who would watch the Masked Magician, the people who watch the magic trick exposed are the same people who want to watch magic.
yeah.
So the same people that would watch Masked Magician in the 90s are, and go, oh my gosh, I love this, are also buying tickets to see a magic show at a casino like me. The same people on TikTok watching these guys expose magic tricks on TikTok are also, when I come across going, hey, I got a new trick, they're watching my video
Hmm.
doing a magic trick. So they're actually fans of magic. Now, is it wrong to expose somebody's work and say like, hey, and give it away? I think so. I think it's kind of rude, but it comes with the territory, that happens to everybody.
Mm.
Um, but the point is that also a lot of the people who watch those shows, because there's no substance there on the Masked Magician and the TikTokers exposing, there's no substance. There's no like real, whoa, it's just eye candy. It's no different than watching, those 5-minute crafts of it's like, oh, look, I'm gonna, glue gun this, thing, and then I'm gonna put ribbon around it. And then now look, here's a handy way to make your own coat hanger out of rubber bands. And you're like, wait, what? And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm never going to remember that. It was entertaining and eye candy for the 20 seconds. Um, but the point is this, is that if you ask anybody who watched The Masked Magician in the 90s, or you asked people, hey, what's this trick on TikTok? They're going to go, oh, well, this magic trick. So, okay. So they had this thing, and then the magician, was this thing that came from behind, and then, and then he had his behind his hand, there was this other thing that came down and whatever. They have no idea what they're saying. Okay. They have no idea. They don't understand. And then also the other point is that they understand one trick and how it's done. They don't have an understanding of the um, philosophy or the actual principle of the trick.
Hmm.
So that same trick, that same deception in a new premise and a new plot will fool them because the they don't know the principle of the deception. They
Right.
just saw, oh, here's how the deceptions work in this stupid trick. So they know this trick. And if it's a stupid trick, well, guess what? Guys like me and professional magicians aren't doing it. So it doesn't really hurt magic. And I would stand by that. The masked magician doesn't really hurt magic.
Yeah.
Exposure doesn't really hurt magic.
And I mean, this won't sound like a compliment, but it is a compliment to you. I've seen your show a lot, right?
Yeah.
There are some tricks where I'm sitting there going, okay, I know how this is done,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
But I'm still amazed by it personally, just because of how good of a showman you are.
Yeah.
A
Thank you.
classic example of this, and I won't reveal anything, but a classic example of this is the light bulb.
Mm.
I know how that's done.
Yeah.
Confirmed by Sophia. And she asked me, well, how did you figure it out? I go, I've seen this show for over X amount of years.
10 years. Yeah.
You know, yeah, it got obvious, but with the music and how it's done, and the fact that it's a light bulb and it messes with your eyes a little
Yeah.
bit, that's a little. There's your clue, people, of how the trick is
Yeah. No, well, no,
done.
what it is that there's a rule in magic. There's a rule of magic that you don't do the same trick twice.
Hmm.
And the reason why is because you lose the element of surprise. And then now it becomes this game. Now, there are certain tricks that you can play the game with where you go, okay, try and figure this out. And what you do is you lead them down a path of deception. So you kind of go, oh, you think it's this way. And then I make a right turn and you're like, wait, you're trying to catch up. So if I'm leading you, you're always trying to catch up. So there are games in magic that have a game like try and figure out puzzle type tricks.
Hmm.
The light bulb is something that is visual that, after watching it for, a number of times, the first time you see it, you go, what the heck?
What?
That was
Yeah.
amazing. I have no idea. And the second time you kind of go, oh, that's
uh,
so good. I don't understand it. The third time you kind of go, okay, wait. Oh, okay. Fourth time. And so there's this build but again, you have to see it. How many times have you seen it? A dozen at least. At
yeah,
least
yeah.
you have to go to see my show, buy a ticket to see my show 6 times. And by then, if you're buying a show ticket to see my show 6 times before you kind of catch on to anything, what you're a fan of magic, you're a fan of me, you appreciate what's going on, and it's not about that. And so
Right.
I took the light bulb out once, and people got mad at the meet and greet. I had people like you who saw my show, and they go, "You didn't do the light bulb," and I was like, "Yeah," and they go, "Yeah." I told my friend, I brought my friend because I told him like the whole time I was like, oh my gosh, you got to see this light bulb thing, you got to see this light bulb thing, and I brought him to the show, and then you didn't do it, and I was like, well, I changed the show. I want to mix it up. And I did this thing that was new. They're like, yeah, but you didn't do the light bulb.
All
You
right,
need,
fine. Come into the auditorium. We'll do the light bulb trick real quick, and
yeah,
then we'll.
yeah. So anyhow, so now I have like signature pieces and classics that I have to do every show because if I don't, in fact, this last tour that I did, um, I opened the show with it and I said, all right, this is year 14 here at this theater, right? Year 14, we're ready to go. We're going to start. This next illusion uses only two things. And then I had people in the audience go, a light bulb. And I was like, these are
Yeah,
like fans and they know, and it becomes this thing. So
it's become your free bird.
yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's really fun. But yeah, I mean, magic to me is fascinating and I love that people like it. And then also to answer that last part of the question is people now come to me as opposed to saying, because of the popularity of Fool Us, as opposed to coming to me and saying, hey, Alex, I saw this masked magician and it's done this way and it's done that way. Now it's like they'll go, okay, so you fooled Penn and Teller. And I go, yeah. And they go, can I guess? I'm like, you want to play the game? And they go, okay. I go, you get one guess. Anything that I do, you have one guess. And then they'll go, okay. And then they'll try and say something like, well, is it da 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 da? And I go, you owe me a trophy. And they go, ah. And it really actually helps, the conversation because then I've had people where I go, do you want to play the game? And they're like, okay, I go, you get one guess. That's the game. That's the game. You're a fan of the TV
Yep.
show? No. And they go, okay. I go, one guess. What is it? And they go, forget, man. I don't know. And so it's really fun.
Sophia did that to me, and one time she do you know how it's done? Do you want me to tell you? I'm like, no, don't tell me. The other person that did it was actually Ace or Captain
Oh
Jack
yeah.
Sparrow Rips. He did this routine where he has audience member pick a card and it goes in the bottle at the end of the trick. Blah, and he goes, "Do you want me to tell you? You want me to tell you how it's done?" I go, "Absolutely not." Because there's an aspect of magic where I still want to be amazed. If I figure it out, then I've ruined it for myself. But at the same time, I still want to be entertained by it. So
Yeah.
please do not tell me tricks unless I actually ask you. How long have you been in Tahoe now as a resident?
I have been in Tahoe. This is going on my 13th year in
Yeah.
Tahoe.
And so
And
13 years ago, what was why was it so significant that you were a resident in Tahoe?
it was the first time that I had my full show,
Hmm.
that I was headlining my own full show, that it was me. So kind of the way that my career went is I was performing at mostly libraries in my late teens and my early when I was 20. Um, but really is late teens because when I was 20, I went on tour with the Disney show and I went on tour with Disney and I toured with that show for 3 years. And then from there, I went on to Ringling Brothers Circus for 2 years. And those are two very large production shows, but they were somebody else's show.
Mm.
I was talent hired to perform in another production show. And so after I got off tour with them after 5 years, I started to try and produce and create my own show. And so I was doing that and I was touring and producing my shows in different theaters with very limited and none or limited success. And then I had the opportunity to perform at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, and promoters that I knew saw me and they said, hey, I think we should put your show in Tahoe. So my Tahoe residency was really, although for a few months prior to that, I had been producing my own show and doing the full 90 myself, as opposed to being a part of a production show. Tahoe was the first time where I had a full residency, where I was 5 nights a week. I was doing my show, 90 minutes.
Hmm.
And it's different than gigging. Most entertainers gig and they try and get hired for an event. They get, an event's coming up. Oh, we need a magician. Oh, we need an event magician. And you're constantly traveling, gigging in and out, in and out, in and out. The problem with that is that there's too many variables, meaning that I'm in a hotel ballroom, this one show. Now I'm in somebody's living room.
Mhm.
Now I'm outdoor at a fair and festival. Now I'm at a trade show. Now I'm at, so the variables are changing all the time. That although you might be getting the experience to deal with those situations, you can't polish the act because you don't know if this line, this moment didn't work because the audience couldn't hear you or the audience couldn't see you. When you're in a theater with a residency, the variable is the audience, because
Right.
I can do the same routine, the same lines, the same lighting, the same mic, the same. So everything's the same on my end. So now the variable is the audience. And if I do something that's hitting with every audience, I know it works. It's not the environments because it's consistent. And that's
Yeah.
what I think the value of a residency is. And I've always tried to structure my career with a residency. And Tahoe has been the core of that. And so in 2012 is when I opened here in Lake Tahoe,
Mhm.
and my residencies began as my own show. So that's the significance. It was the first time that the reviews that were going on Yelp and the reviews that would eventually, come to be were reviewing my show, reviewing me. Did I like Alex? Was the Alex
Mm.
this magician good? And so it was my first own reviews. In the Disney show or the Ringling show, it was like, how did we like Ringling? Oh man, the elephants were amazing. The tigers were amazing. Love the human cannonball. The ringmaster was okay, or whatever. The ringmaster was great or whatever, or the
Were you
Disney show.
were you
Oh, it was
doing
such,
much magic in Ringling, or was it
oh
just you were
yeah.
the MC? I
No, there's
I
a
didn't I
lot
didn't get a
that
chance
you
to
never
see
saw it. You
Ringling.
would have loved it, dude. You would have loved it. It was a magic themed circus. The whole circus was in a magical world. It was all magic. And
Yeah.
so the transitions between the acts were illusions that I performed. So for example, before we went into the dog act, I would make a dog appear and then he would transform into something else, and then out came the dog into the dog act. If we're going to go into the human cannonball act, I would do it.
Mhm.
I would do this illusion where I'd load this girl into a cannon. She would vanish and fly across the room invisibly, and then
Cool.
she appear somewhere else. And then we go into human cannonball act. I do
Ah.
illusion with a tiger. I make a tiger appear, and then we go into the tiger act. So the illusions and the magic served as transitions between the acts, as opposed to just going, ladies and gentlemen, from the high energy clowns to the high flying trapeze, it's the whatever act.
Direct your eyes. Now direct
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
eyes.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was more magic and illusions that served as those transitions. And I think it was very clever, as innovative, the first time it had ever been done. And I loved it. It was an amazing experience. And that gave me the experience and the confidence and the education and the ability and the skills to host and be my own show and do 90, because doing 90 is very difficult. It's not easy. There's many, I would say not many. The majority of entertainers cannot do 90 by themselves. Those are um those are for
For
residents.
those who don't know, could you explain what that means? Do 90? What that means?
Okay.
Yeah.
Most entertainers
I
when they're
know.
yeah,
But
most entertainers when they're booked for a gig, they're booked for usually 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Because why? Well, it's after dinner entertainment. We're in
yeah.
this, again, it's a company ballroom, and we need an entertainer for 45 minutes after dinner. Or, the awards happen and then there's 45-minute entertainer. Or, oh, it's my wedding, and can you do a 30-minute magic show? Or, oh, this is my retirement party and we want entertainment. 45 minutes, is that good? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You do that. And, at a fair or a festival, okay, we have all these acts and then we're going to have this and that, and we'll have a band after you. So can you do like, 30 minutes and then the band? Yeah. And so you're always gigging, and that's what a gigging life is. You're
Hmm.
doing 5. And
Yeah.
even 45 to an hour for some entertainers is very, very difficult. Now, it's different for a band and a musician. Bands and musicians are used to playing sets, and the sets might be an hour-long set, and then you have a break, and then another hour-long set. That's different because you're playing songs. You're not necessarily doing audience interaction. Okay, so even comedians, they're an hour is for a headliner. Okay. So when you go see Jerry Seinfeld in Vegas, he does 60 minutes. He's not doing 90. He does an hour. Okay.
Right.
Kevin Hart, an hour. Some people will do longer. Like, you get those guys like, you know, uh,
I mentioned in
Dave
the last,
Chappelle will come in
yeah,
and be like, I'll do 3 hours and whatever, but that's not common.
I
So
mentioned in
we're
my
going
last
by 90.
podcast. I know Christopher Titus. His shows are an hour 45.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But see, that's not common though. That's not
No.
common. So when I mean 90 is this, if someone's paying $60 a ticket to see my show and I only do 45, what are you talking about? Like you can't. If you're buying a ticket to a show, the show minimum has to be for a comedian a 90 or 60 minutes. Usually they have an opening act, which will do 20. So now the whole show is 90, right? Just about. Um, but the show minimum, if it's in a casino where I am or residency, it has to be 75, minimum 75, minimum. People paying a ticket. And if you're buying a ticket and all of a sudden it's less than an hour, you're like, what are we doing? What is this?
Mm,
Less than an hour is for gig workers. So the point is, most people do 75 if they're selling tickets. I will do 90 minutes, which essentially is a full show. And if you go over 90, that's when you're going to want an intermission, right? And then you'll do
right.
another, like a Broadway show. But the thing is that casinos don't want an intermission because they want them back out on the floor gambling.
Hmm.
So, so that's what I mean when I say 90 is that I do 90 by myself, and that's not common. There are a limited number of magicians who can do 90 by themselves, entertainers as a whole to do 90 by themselves. There's guys who are they'll do compilation shows, Masters of Illusion Tour, right? Masters of Illusion Tour has maybe 4 magicians and they each do 20, right?
Hmm.
Illusionist, they have 8 magicians and they each do 15 or 10. So
And that's
like,
usually like one trick.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They'll do one trick and they might have different spots. So the illusionist usually has intermission, and that's because it's more of a Broadway style magic show, but they have 8 acts and they're doing multiple sets. And so there's none of them are doing, when I toured with the illusionist, I think I did 25 minutes
Hmm.
total in the show. And that's like the longest set anybody was doing. It's like me and another guy were doing 25 minutes and then yeah, and then the other hour and 15 was spread out between 5 other guys.
Yeah. Uh,
So that's the point. And that's why the residency is so important. And that's when I came here, is that I'm doing 90 by myself. They're reviewing me. My Ticketmaster, I have a review on Ticketmaster. It's like they're reviewing me.
mhm.
It's Alex Ramon. It's not just, oh, this show I saw.
And you're building your own show too. What I love about magic shows is they are a compilation of all types of entertainment. And in my opinion, it's there's magic, yeah, but it's also a concert, stand-up routine, and also an improv show because
Yeah.
you're doing audience interaction and you're doing there's a lot of music being played
Yeah.
in terms
Magic
of so
shows
like
have,
yeah,
yeah, magic shows.
you construct your magic show like a set list in a band
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
then
I do.
yeah.
Magic shows, unlike almost any other type of show, can do all of it. You have audience interaction and crowd work. The improv goes with, I don't know what that's about.
I don't
The
know.
improv of the improv of the crowd work. The like I said, in the light bulb routine, and we just put this new routine in that my assistant has a costume on and there's these lighting effects and it's like it's rock and roll. There's music
Yep.
and lighting and people can sing the song and it's like it's really engaging. So it's concert style. And then you have, yeah, your comedy and your humor in there that you're doing some bits that make people laugh. And then there's the puzzle nature of it all. I mean,
Mhm.
magic is really a universal art form, and when done well, you can really create an amazing show that people can experience outside of a magic show, hitting all those things.
Right. And for doing magic for so long as you have, would you say that the trick, it's like when you're doing the magic trick itself, are you kind of on autopilot, muscle memory, and then more so engaging with the audience at that point when you're performing the trick? Or,
Yeah. So the goal of an entertainer, right? Of a magician for me, my goal is, one, I have to be skilled and adept enough at my craft so I don't have to think about the method. I don't have to
mhm,
think about the secret, the hidden secret that the secret I'm trying to hide, the method I'm trying to hide. I don't want to think about that. I just want to do it, and without having to spend any energy. It's like second nature, right?
Right.
So I can focus on the audience and how they're reacting. The big part, and I would say the difference between masters of their craft and even just really good entertainers, is that a master of their craft is doing calculations throughout the entire show.
Hmm.
And the calculations look like this. I'm performing, I'm noticing that this group over here, this pocket, maybe it's a booth of people, 4 people, maybe it's just a section, maybe it's an individual person, but I'm noticing them that they're starting to scratch their head and start to trying to go, oh, I want to, well, not even that,
No. Okay.
more like they're going, hey, I think I'm going to catch this here. And I can
Oh,
see that they're in tuned with something, and I have to be aware of that. So if I'm like, oh, I think these people might know something, I think these people might be on my tail. Well, I'm going to make sure that I either block my movement so that way any flash of a method will be hidden from them.
interesting.
So that way, if I'm doing something, they'll be like, ah, right there, because that maybe they have a bad angle. So I'll adjust. At the same time, I'm noticing this person over here loving it. So what do? If they're loving it, I don't have to worry about them catching me. I have to worry about these people catching me in a magic show. And so then what I'll do is that now if I turn my focus and attention on these people and I say, look, you guys are trying so hard to figure it out. Now the attention's on them. As soon as that happens, it's social anxiety where they're going, well, no, 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 I see you. You're blinking. Look, fine. I'm not going to even. And now all the attention's on them. And that gives me the space and the misdirection to do something without them catching me. And I could say, look, right, look, this guy. And I get this person on my side. And so then I'm noticing that, oh my gosh, you know what? There's a person here standing, their foot, this just happened. This person had a cast on and their foot was kind of in the walkway. Well, my assistant's going to need to walk there soon. So I have to be aware of that. So I tell Sammy, did you see the cast in the row? Yep. So it's these calculations of your audience.
Hmm.
The trick, what I'm actually doing is secondary. It's that
Sure.
I'm worried about the audience. I'm concerned with the audience. Oh, there's this kid over here that really wants to be a part of the show. I'm going to acknowledge them. I'm going to throw him a beanie at the end of the show. I'm going to throw him a t-shirt at the end of the show. Oh, these people over here for the first, and then remembering their names. So if I talk to somebody and I say, oh, what's your name? John. John. Oh, John's from, Lafayette or wherever where do you live now? You're in somewhere.
Dublin.
Dublin. Yeah. Dublin. So, oh, John, oh, Dublin. And I say something later in the show. So the audience knows that I'm doing the show for them, not just it's the same play over and over with no variables, is that I'm doing the show for them. And the only way that you could do that is to be a master of your craft
Yeah.
and
Well,
the techniques needed.
I can relate too because I'm lead singer of my
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
If I look around the room and I see balloons, oh, there's a birthday going on over there. They're gonna want attention, you know. Oh, this kid really is really having a good time, and they don't want. I'll hand them a tambourine, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally getting engaged with everything, which actually is interesting because my next point, what if you strip all that away, like what happened during COVID? Your lockdown shows, you
Yeah.
had none of that.
Right.
You had
So
Zoom.
yeah, yeah. So I did shows, virtual shows on Zoom.
Remember, we're going backwards with your life here. So now we're at
Yeah,
COVID.
yeah, yeah. So I did virtual shows on Zoom and I had people that tuned in all the time, which was really amazing. But it was an adjustment. But I heard some entertainers, they go, I don't like Zoom shows. And I'm like, well, that's because you're trying to position them as live in-person shows. Cause I would correct, magicians who would do Zoom shows. I don't like Zoom shows. I like live shows. I like live shows. I'm like, Zoom shows are live shows. They're not
Hmm.
in-person shows. And so the Zoom shows, you can do so much more because they can be a lot more intimate because I'm seeing you in your living room. You're seeing me in my living room. We're sitting on our couch. People are more comfortable. people would be lying in bed watching, and you'd see them on their camera. And so they're really spending time. You see how people consume content, right?
Hmm.
So when people are watching videos, if they're really engaged and they're watching it, or they're just like, it's in the background.
Yeah.
Now, you might find that distracting, um, but that's silly because all of us do things with stuff in the background and we like it. Like my secret, and you'll love this, my guilty pleasure in life is like, I'm a fan of the Marvel films. I
Hmm.
freaking love the Marvel films. And like, if I have nothing going on, which, yeah, I mean, that doesn't have a lot, but if I don't have, that doesn't do it as much anymore. But like, if I have nothing going on or I have to do something kind of mindless, I'll put on Infinity, War. I'll put on Infinity War and the Marvels just playing in the background. And then I'm like, oh, I love this part. Oh, I love that part. Right. And so, you have to respect that. I remember hearing an actor, I don't remember who this was, but when they started releasing seasons all together as opposed to episodes every week,
Hmm.
on like Netflix or one of the streaming services, it's like, who are we to tell people how they should consume the content? If someone
Right.
wants to binge a season in literally 48 hours, okay, let them. They're fans of the show. If someone's like, nope, I want to once a week, I have my time, my hour to watch this. I watch it every Friday night. That's my thing, whatever. We have the
Yeah.
ability to do that now. And so,
And we're
so this
talking
show,
COVID too. This is not.
yeah,
I mean, your shows were free, and I
yeah.
think you did a show every Thursday,
Every
and
Saturday. I did a
or
show every
Saturday,
Saturday night.
and during lockdown, man, that was a breath of fresh air. That was like a
Yeah,
break from, man. We're inside all day.
yeah.
Now we have a magic show to
I have a
watch.
magic show, and it was
Yeah.
different every night. I never repeated a show. I never repeated a trick. I would do a new magic show every day for 35 days. That was one of the tours I did. And then I
Yeah.
did every Saturday for another year. I did a different magic show every Saturday for over a year.
Yeah, about
And
350 guests, I think, one time, like
no,
or
no, no, we
more.
had more than that. Like
More, I know, just
our average was that. Yeah,
average.
I mean, our
Yeah.
big ones. When I would just, that was just my live streaming.
Hmm.
My When I would promote it, yeah, we would get hundreds, if not 1,000 devices. I mean, I bogged up registrations because before you go over 1,000 devices, you'd have to go into like a like a
Mm.
webinar. And so I would have devices registered, and we definitely hit on the big ones when I'd promote them, 1,000 devices registered. And so, yeah, and I mean, and then when you do that, you have to remember most people watching on Zoom are watching not by themselves. They're watching with 2, 3, 4, 5 people. So, you may have, let's say, 100 devices, but if there's 4 people on each thing, that's
Yeah,
400 people, and if you have 1,000 devices, then that's well over 2,000, 3,000 people watching at once. And that happened more than once on my streams.
that's great.
But it was different. You had to adjust to the medium. It's interesting because on Zoom, in a live in-person show, and I do my show here at the casino at theater, I can hear everyone, but I can't see everyone because the
Hmm.
lights are in your eyes. I could see the front row and maybe a little bit of the booth, but I can't see anything in the second level or third level. I can't, it's just black, but I can hear them. So I can hear clap, or I can hear a laugh coming from the second level or the third level because I know where it is. So I can hear them, but I can't see them. In Zoom, it's the exact opposite. I can see everyone because the camera's in their face, but I can't hear them. Yeah, 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 yeah. But I can't hear them. So that's just the exact opposite. But I can, if I, in an in-person show, hear them clapping and hear them laughing, I know what their face looks like.
Hmm.
And Zoom, if I could see them smiling or going, I know what they sound like. It's the same thing. You just have to adjust.
That's really funny too, because on my last podcast with Rob Paulson, we're talking about him recording in a booth, and when they're talking, he just sees,
Right.
you know, so you don't know if you're doing well or not. That's really cool. Were you working on Cold Shock during that period?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
cold shock.
I mentioned before I had lunch with your mom, and She hates cold shock.
Oh my gosh. I hate cold shock.
I don't
Cold
not
shock.
you don't have to go through the process of how you prepared for it because I know you've talked about it before.
Yeah.
Is
Well, I
that
mean,
but
just
would you say
for the
is that
listeners,
is that one of your staples? Like, how come you're not
well,
doing cold
no,
shock
I
anymore?
would say staples because I've only done it once and I will only do it once. It was kind of like, but it was an accomplishment that is talked about. So cold shock, I had this idea. What was it? Cold shock was an under ice water escape.
It's not a
I
magic trick.
It's not a magic trick at
Right.
all. It was a stunt slash escape. And I was dropped into 39-degree ice water, chained and shackled with a 100-pound weighted vest holding me down. I had to pick locks hold my breath, pick locks in the ice water, then remove the vest and then come back up for air. So I've been doing underwater escapes for years and, lock picking, things like that for years. And I thought underwater, right? And you kind of go, people are always scared, like, oh my gosh, you have to hold your breath underwater. Because if I'm picking locks right now, you'd be like, okay, that's fascinating, but you're not
Yeah.
intense. When you're underwater holding your breath, it's like, okay, let's go, hurry up. Well, I thought, what if the easiest part of the whole stunt was the holding your breath underwater? What if the holding your breath underwater was like, who cares about that? Right?
Mhm,
Who cares about holding your breath underwater when it's the most important aspect of any underwater escape?
mhm.
So I said, how do you do that? And I thought, well, oh, ice water. And I thought, well, that's crazy because people take ice baths and they're like, and it's so important
Yeah.
whenever you're doing cold exposure, Wim Hof techniques ice baths. Breathing is so important. You have to breathe, otherwise you can't do it. Right. One of the reason why the stunt was called cold shock, it's because you know what 30% of people who fall through like an icy lake or a pond, and they get underwater, 30% of the deaths, and when that happens, are caused by cold shock. So what is
Mhm.
cold shock? Cold shock is when your body is stimulated by cold water that you immediately gasp.
Right.
But when you're underwater, what you just did is inhale water. And now you drowned because your body shocked up and you took a breath and you drank some water, basically. And that's about a third of all deaths happen that way. And so it's very, very dangerous. Your body's just shock reaction. And so what I thought of is like, well, what if it was an ice water stunt where it's like, okay, you fell through ice and now you have to free yourself. You can't just go back up. So the reality was I had this idea and I thought, oh, I'm going to fake it.
And we've established, by the way, that Alex is crazy enough to be like, no one can do it. I'm going to challenge myself.
Um, um,
If you
I
stuck
said,
this
I'm going to,
far in the podcast, we know that
yeah,
Alex
yeah,
wants to
yeah.
challenge himself. And
Yeah.
anyway,
I said, well, my first initial thought was I was going to fake it. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? Um, I'm going to, um, I'm going to get fake ice and I'm going to gimmick a
hmm
thermometer that reads colder than it is. And then I'll just fake the thing. Right. And then fake ice, the acrylic ice, it sinks. It doesn't float. So I go, dang. So it's like, I need floating ice. So the floating ice that exists is like this rubber kind of gel kind of squishy stuff. And it looks good. And a lot of times they use it for commercials and things like this.
hmm
And then I went to a movie production house in Van Nuys, California, and they do everything. Pirates of the Caribbean, 007, anything that ice and snow, Day After Tomorrow,
Yep,
that's
yep.
there. Yeah, it's them. That's what they do. And I talked to the guy, I said, this is what I want to do. And he goes, oh, well, you can get this thing. It's really expensive, actually,
hmm
especially for the amount that I needed. Or you could use paraffin wax and you get a set designer and you kind of make it look like it's ice on it and cold and all these things. He goes, but you got to make sure that it's, you know, done and someone's managing it. And I'm like, I can't have a set designer and I have to do like, wait, this is a pain in the butt. And I go, okay, what about the rubber ice that floats? And he goes, well, it works, but it will disintegrate over time. It kind of like
Mm,
disintegrates. And then it's like one, it also is rubber. So if it doesn't make a noise, so if it hits against the glass or something like that, it's not going to make any noise. So it can't be examined. It's only for video. And I'm like, well, I'm going to live stream this, but there will be people there. And like, long story short, I realized this isn't going to work. And I called my friend who's a consultant and works with me on all my projects. And I said, hey, I think I really have to do this. And he goes, you're kidding. I go, no, I literally think I have to train for the cold exposure and do it. Like, I really think I have to do it. And he's like, oh, there's no way. You're crazy.
there it is.
Crazy. There's no way. And so then I'm like, I'm going
That's
to
the
do it.
green light.
Yeah. And so anyhow, I did cold shock. I trained for months for cold exposure. I did Wim Hof techniques just for the cold exposure, but you can't do Wim Hof techniques with breath holds.
Mm,
I contacted a Wim Hof like expert, this guy who had trained with Wim. He's like a third level, whatever. He actually wasn't too far. He was in Northern California. And I said, I want to hire him to do private training sessions with him. And I told him what I wanted to do, and he denied. He said, I don't want to do this. He goes, no. He's
mm.
like, you're holding your breath. That's not. I go, well, I'm not going to do Wim Hof techniques holding your breath. I'm doing Wim Hof techniques for the cold exposure. I'm going to use free dive techniques to hold my breath. It's a standard thing. And he goes, yeah, no, I don't want to do it. And I was like, so I had to do it on my own. So I was like, all right. So I ended up training, and I think the total time was 6 to 9 months in the cold exposure. The breath holds, like I said, I've been doing lock picking and breath holds for years prior to that. But the hard part, which I didn't account for, which was, and this is actually what the premise was, is that, okay, I'm holding my breath in ice water. But when it's that cold, okay, in sub 40 degrees, you have maximum 5 minutes. You have like 3 to 5 minutes before all of the blood leaves your extremities to cover your
Oh
vital.
my.
So it's not a race against how long I can hold my breath, because I can hold my breath for 5 minutes, right? Like, but it's how long until I literally have no mobility in my fingers. How long until my body reacts to where I can't even pick a lock if I wanted to. So when people die in that cold of water, it's like swim for help. They can't even swim because they can't move their arms. They can't kick their legs because all the blood left their extremities and it's covering vital organs, right? That's the problem, is that when it's that cold, you can't move because you literally can't. You can only wait there. You can't go swim for help, right? You would never, if it was that cold and it was in the middle of the lake, you wouldn't even be able to swim
Right.
the mile to the shore because you wouldn't be able to move your arms. So the point is, that was what the premise was. I was underwater for, I think, 2 minutes and 13 seconds, if I remember correctly. 2 minutes and 13 seconds.
Yeah.
And
I
30, it
don't.
was 39-degree ice water. And then we had paramedics on standby. The paramedics, when they showed up to the stunt, I gave them a brief of what's going to happen. I said, my training partner is my safety partner. Blake will tell you what to do. If there's a problem, Blake will let you know. And I said, and if there's a problem, you just, treat it like you
You've
would hold somebody at a lake. And they were like, oh, really? Okay. So what's the trick? And I go, no, there's no trick. And I go, you could you go feel the water. And so, cause it's in a tank, it was in a tank with a plexiglass front and sides and everything.
sure.
And so the paramedics, the firemen came over and they put their hand in the water and the ice and they go, no, bro, that's real. That's real. Okay. And I was like, and I didn't realize how cold I was, um, until after I got out. I got out, I pulled myself out, and there's this platform that I was on, and I went on the platform, and then the paramedics came. And when I felt just his hand on me, just on my body, it felt like it was burning. And
Right.
it was just his hand. And that's what I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, my body is so cold right now because his hand, like, it's so hot and it's just a normal temperature. That's how I
I
knew my body
I
was
think
cold.
I've seen you do cold shock twice.
Well, no, I mean, I only did cold shock once, the live stream. I trained for it.
Right.
And my other underwater escapes, I've done underwater escapes, but I wasn't ice water. That's the
Oh, okay.
difference. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So that explains. So if you've seen Alex's show, a lot of his for people watching, a lot of his cues come from music, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I know that you use the Dark Knight theme for the
Yeah.
underwater escape.
Yeah.
um, for doing that and having the cue, you are intentionally holding your breath until you hear the cue. Or are you counting? Are you?
No, no, no. I know my time, how long I'm under.
Uh-huh.
So I have music that I will remember and I'll know when the beats are. So I want to know I've been underwater for how long? Here's a 30-second mark. Here's a 60-second mark. Here's a 90-second mark. Now we're going over 2 minutes. I think the longest I've ever in a live performance, I think the longest I was underwater, I think I'm going to say 3 minutes. Because I was having trouble with a
I
lock.
was there. I know which one you're talking about. It was in
Yeah.
Walnut Creek. You had the truck had just arrived like 15 minutes or 20 minutes before showtime.
Prior to show.
I was there for that.
Yeah.
I even
Yeah.
went up
And
to
that
your
was,
mom afterward and was like, "What happened?" And she goes, "I oh, she we were ready to hit the glass."
yeah. Yeah. There definitely was a time where I was underwater. I mean, usually, I want to go in that 90-second mark. My goal is to try and hit 90 seconds. And, I'm not doing any, I mean, obviously there's showbiz in it that is I'm using the handcuffs and the locks that I'm familiar with, that
Right.
I know. Um, I wouldn't do something crazy like someone says, "Hey, here's my lock, pick it." It's like I could pick it, but I'm not gonna try and pick it while I'm holding my breath underwater.
Right.
I could go, oh, this one's tough because that's happened where I'm just like, oh, this one's hot, this one's tough, this will take work, right? Some are easy. I'm using the locks that I'm familiar with, that I know how to do
Right.
when I'm doing the underwater stuff. But um, yeah, I have the music there because that cues me to how long I've been underwater, how long I know my beats. So I know
Yeah.
like, oh man, it's been 30 seconds. I should get going here because now, oh, this one's taking me a little bit more time. So it's more of just a mental cue under there. So I just know my pacing because if you're holding your breath underwater and when you're doing long-term breath holds, you don't want to know. You don't want to
Mm.
know because you just want to just get into the zone and just kind of like get in that space and just hold your breath and just feel comfortable underwater. And so when I do my breath holds underwater, um, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, that's tough. Out of water. And what's interesting, which I don't really understand why, but what's interesting is you can hold your breath out of water longer than you can underwater, which is really interesting. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
No.
anyway, so out of water, I mean, yeah, it's 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I would have to train to get back up to that again because I haven't been training. I haven't done the underwater for a while now. But
That's
I
okay. We need you around.
yeah, right. Yeah, I'd have to train to get back up to there. But I mean, I can do breath holds for right now, just not even practicing 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes for sure. But if I wanted to get back up to that 5 minute mark, I'd have to train.
Yeah. So I have a segment on my podcast. It's called My First Time.
Okay.
My first time with Alex Ramon. Was we talked about it a little bit in Tahoe,
Yeah.
Illusion Fusion.
Man, that was my first residency at the
Yeah,
Horizon
man.
Open Cabaret Theater. Love that.
So people, just so you know, the reason how I got Alex Ramon to do this is I'm pretty sure he'll say yes if you do a podcast. I'm not guaranteeing or speaking for him, but I've known Alex for 11 years, 12 years now.
At least 12, at least 11 or 12.
Yeah, Alex has been to my wedding and we're friends. That's how I got Alex. So
Yeah, 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 that's right.
there's the secret, guys. And even his fiance caught the bouquet at the wedding, but I also proposed at one of his shows. So I think we're even at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, definitely. Definitely.
um Illusion Fusion, was that the first time Tahoe allowed a magician back in residency for a little bit, or?
No, Tahoe has always had a lot of magic shows. I
Okay.
mean, Doug Henning used to perform here. Copperfield performed here. Spellbound magic shows were production shows that happened here. So Tony Clark had a long residency here for years. At this point, I
We
would
talked
say,
about Ringling. We talked about Disney.
yeah, I would say that at this point, I have had the longest residency of any magicians in Lake Tahoe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Guys have come in and played one-offs. Tony Clark had a residency here um, for a number of years. But as far as like headliner doing their own show in Tahoe as a magician, I believe I am the longest I'm the magician with the longest residency in Lake Tahoe ever. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And did it start with Illusion Fusion?
Began with Illusion Fusion. That was my first residency. Yep. And
Uh-huh.
I was 2.5 years. That one was about 2.5 years at the Horizon. And then I went to
Yes.
Harrah's Tahoe with Impossible. And then I went to Hard Rock, which was the Horizon. Horizon turned into Hard Rock. And I was at Hard Rock with Real Magic for a little over a year or more. And then I've been at Harvey's for just going on 4 years with my show Magic.
That's great. I
Yeah.
remember you opened Illusion Fusion, you had a bird or something fly around the
Yeah.
arena
Oh, good memory.
and it landed in your pocket. It was a white thing that landed in your pocket, and that's how you got your introduced.
Oh man, you have a good memory. Yeah, it's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
close.
yeah.
Pretty close to
Like
that.
I said, you never forget your first time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's pretty close. Pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got excited because it was you did Illusion Fusion, then I got excited because then you started touring Lesher. I think that was your first
Right.
year at Lesher.
Well, my first year at Lesher was a year prior to that, but yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it was still pretty early on. I mean, I did Lesher 3 times in 2011, and then in 2012 is when really the December shows happened, and now that was
Hmm.
14 years ago.
And then when I heard that you got I don't remember, was it Harrah's? It might have been, it was Harrah's. Uh
Impossible.
Impossible. You got the Harrah's residency. I was like, I got to go see my friend Alex.
Yeah.
Um, he's in Tahoe. And then I was working with this girl who had a cabin, or her uncle had a cabin in Tahoe. And I was like, "Oh, can I borrow it?" She goes, "As long as you take me." I'm like, "All right." And then I took her and another coworker, and you pulled her up on stage
Yeah.
for the Bruno
Yeah.
Mars trick.
Yeah, for the Hearts trick,
Uh,
yeah. And
yeah,
then
there we go, guys. There's what we're talking about, what I'm alluding to.
and that's how I met Sophia. And then after that, we became friends, just platonic, friends on
Yeah,
Instagram for years. And then
I had a problem with Sophia because at the time she didn't know who Tom Hanks was.
oh boy. Yeah,
So
she's not a movie buff.
I immediately friend zoned her. Not like I was
Yeah,
trying
so
to date her or
Sophia,
anything.
yeah,
We were
yeah.
coworkers and
No,
friends.
no,
It was.
no, it's hilarious.
Is she there?
Sophia,
Is she in the room?
no, no, she's not here right now.
Good. All right. Well,
Sophia,
Megan's at work, so
yeah, right. Sophia is yeah, so we became friends, and then maybe 4 years ago, we kind of started chatting a little bit more, and it was like, hey, do you want to meet up in person? And then
yeah.
we started dating, and then actually you found out because
Cold
she
shock.
went to Cold Shock, and I have a photo of there's a photo we posted a photo of me and her hugging after it was over, and you sent it to me, and you go, you have some explaining to do.
You
And I was like,
did.
oh, I think you sent me like the I Love Lucy meme. Just like,
Yeah.
you have some splaining to Lucy. You have some splaining. And so then I was like,
Alex.
yeah. And so that's hilarious. Yeah. So we met. So I met my now fiance because of you.
Yeah, and I proposed at one of your shows at Lesher.
Yeah.
That was so, it was, the timing was so funny. I don't know if you know the story, so I'll tell the story. The timing was so funny because I think I bought the ring in August, and I was trying to come up with an idea of how to propose. And I asked a friend of ours, I was like, should I do it? Let's see, Alex's show is coming up. Should I do it at a magic show or should I do it at Disneyland? And my friend was like, you need to do it at the magic show. Don't propose at Disneyland for whatever you do, please. Everyone proposes at Disneyland. Don't do it. So I sent you a message in September and you didn't get back to me until like end of October or something like that. Because you were busy. I
Yeah,
understood.
I
And I was
know.
like,
It's like
okay.
it's funny because people sometimes I message you and then I go, I will always message back, but it may take 2 months.
Yeah. And not this podcast, fortunately. It was Thanksgiving weekend, and I'm a very traditionalist. I was going to go ask Megan's dad for permission to propose. I already bought the ring. I already had you set up. And then in his house, a pipe in the wall burst, and he was not happy at all. So what do I
It's fine.
do? Do I cancel the tickets or do I wait a little? So I waited about 3 days for him to calm down from this event, and then I asked for his permission, and then I started telling everyone what I was about to do, and then the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah.
Uh, I have one more question.
Okay.
Two. I have it's going to turn into five, but I have one. One last question is going to turn into five. Um, at the end of I've seen your show a lot, and at the end of every show, you tell the same story where you approach your mom and you go, watch. But you also talk about your dad gave you a book, a magic book. My curiosity is, how did he know to get you a magic book? What started you in that direction?
So my dad had a coworker who was a dispatcher because my dad was a courier and he would deliver packages and dispatch. And so one of the dispatchers was a magician and he knew some magic tricks. Not a professional magician, but did some magic tricks. And so my dad took me to work one day and he said, "Hey, Paul, show Alex a trick," because Paul would do magic trick for people. Paul showed me this trick and I was like, what happened? And I was just really immediately fascinated with it. And I kept showing a fascination with it. And whenever I went to my dad to work with my dad, I was always like, "Where's the guy? Where's Paul?
Mm.
He's the guy that I want to learn. And so the thing is that my dad saw that intrigue and that interest, and so he bought me a magic book for Christmas. And it was a big magic book, and it's a Mark Wilson's Complete Course in Magic, and I still have it to this day. It's actually a really, really good magic book, even to this day. And it was my entry into it, and so that's what led to it. So the intrigue was there because of these tricks I had seen, and then once I got the book, then it was like, that's it.
I
That
figure that you also kind of had a similar experience with me watching World's Greatest Magicians, that television
See,
show.
I guess I was always, I mean, yeah, I think it's fair to say I was always fascinated with it, but that all came after I got the book. So
Um,
after I got the book, and then all of a sudden it was March Magic Week, I was like, oh, sweet, because I'm into it. So March Magic Week, I never saw a magic show as a kid. I never saw a Copperfield special. I never saw any of those TV shows. In fact, we didn't have cable, so it would come
hmm,
on Fox Family Channel.
right.
And I didn't have cable, so I couldn't watch it. So I'd have my friend Kyle on a VHS, record March Magic Week. And I'd be like, "Bro, it's March Magic Week. Can you can you record it for me, please?" Like, and then
Kids growing up, we had basic cable, and then we had Viacom cable, where you had to pay extra for
we had
show
no
for
cable.
channels.
We had 6 channels.
My family got Nickelodeon, but we didn't get Disney Channel because they didn't want to pay extra for it.
Yep, I didn't have Nickelodeon, did not have Disney
Yeah.
Channel. We did not have a computer. I don't think we got a computer in the house until I was about sophomore in high school.
What got
Uh,
me interested in magic was there was a on Nickelodeon, and there was a Mark Summers haunted house kind of thing. And Mark Summers is the host, and he appears and he's doing this magic trick. And behind him it was like one of those, Mark Summers was like this, and the magician was through his hands.
oh yeah, interesting.
And behind Mark was Lance Burton. And
Oh,
then Lance Burton from that point, went into his his old dish trick, the swordsman routine,
Yeah.
where he fights a masked swordsman,
Yeah.
winds up losing the match, but he reveals it was Lance.
He's the guy.
And
Yeah.
Lance Burton was really the first magician I was like, I love this guy. I love
Yeah.
magic.
That's amazing. Lance has turned into a great friend.
And I'm
And
not
so,
jealous for you at all.
but yeah, no, I mean, that's how I got interested, was from that book from my dad. That's really what really kind of solidified what turned into a passion, a hobby that turned into a passion that is how I made my living. I mean, I've never done anything else. I've never had another job. So yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful art. It's a wonderful art, a wonderful hobby, and it's just a fun thing. Like, I'm a fan of it, of magic anyway. So if I go anywhere, I want to see a magic show,
Yeah.
you know?
Is that magic book that you got strictly magic tricks, or does it tell you how to engage with an audience, or is that something that you've learned?
Just magic tricks. I mean, there might be a little bit of that on there, but not much. I mean, it's kind of like, here's the trick, you know?
So your interactions with audience members is
That's
purely you,
world experience. That's me doing literally 8, 9,000 shows in my career thus far.
because
I
you released that one video of the craziest thing you've done, or not? No, I'm sorry, not the craziest thing you've done. Recently, that kid that you brought up, that you tell him to smile, and he goes, you know,
Oh my gosh,
that's going
Emilio.
viral. That's that little guy.
Oh, we uploaded it, and within like a day or two, it had like 10,000 views, and like it was just kind of going. It definitely is a video that went well, but that kid was hilarious. But that's because, now it's I've done, and again, thousands of shows, and I've worked with thousands, tens of thousands of audience members that it's you kind of have I have a gauge of what and who people, what they act like and what they do. So, of
That's great, man. Yeah, Alex, thank you so much for your
course,
time.
I'm happy that I had to be a part of it, and good luck on building the podcast out, and stay curious,
Yeah,
and interview, fans and people, and be the fan that people are,
I
as you're
won't.
talking to these people. I'm happy
Yeah,
to be with
I
you.
won't ask you to do a trick, but I will ask you to, do a send off. Where can we find you? Where are you going to go next?
Yeah, I would love any subscribers on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, Alex Ramon Magic, you'll just put in Alex Ramon anywhere, you'll find it. I'm trying to build my YouTube channel because I never really put any effort into the channel, but now I am. And so yeah, YouTube, Alex Ramon Magic, Instagram, Alex Ramon, and that's where I'm at mostly on those two platforms. And that's where I'm at mostly on those two platforms.
And of course, I'll put that in the description below and where to find you and stuff like
Awesome,
that.
brother.
And thanks
It's
again,
very good.
Alex.
Thank
Thanks again for watching. And if you want to follow Alex Ramon, go ahead and head to his website at alexramonmagic.com, or check him out on Instagram at Alex Ramon, Facebook at Alex Ramon, or YouTube at Alex Ramon. All links will be in the description down below. Don't forget to like, follow, share this video, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next meet and greet. See you next time.